I'm Selara and I'm 29 years old. I work as a graphic designer. I live in a quiet town in upstate New York. My whole life, I felt like a shadow in my family. I was always one step behind my sister, Mariselle. She was the star of every room she walked into. Everyone noticed her first, laughed at her jokes first, and praised her for everything she did. I, on the other hand, always felt small and invisible. At her wedding, it was the worst. They put me in a folding chair by the kitchen, like I was some stranger who had wandered in from the street. Meanwhile, cousins I hadn't seen in years got the best seats in the hall, right in front. I walked out that night, feeling sad and angry. 10 minutes later, I saw Mariselle crying in the parking lot. Her perfect makeup was ruined, and she looked upset. For once, everyone could see what I had felt my whole life. I was done being invisible. I was done letting everyone treat me like I didn't matter. This is the story of how I finally stood up for myself. Growing up, Mariselle was the golden girl of the family. She was 2 years older than me. She got the best grades, won debates, and always seemed to make everyone pay attention to her. She had a laugh that made people lean closer just to hear it. My parents, my mom who used to be a school teacher and my dad who owned a hardware store, always treated her like she could do no wrong. Me, I was the quiet one. I liked sketching in my notebooks and dreamed about going to art school one day. My parents, however, wanted me to choose a safe career like accounting. When I finally chose graphic design, they said it was just a hobby. Even after I moved out at 20 and started a freelance business from scratch, they didn't take it seriously. At family barbecues, my mom would ask, "Selara, when are you getting a real job?" Meanwhile, everyone cheered Mariselle on when she got a promotion at work. Mariselle and I were never very close. She would come to our house, plan mom's birthday parties or dad's retirement party, and always steal the show. I would help hang decorations, set up tables, or do anything that was needed, but it felt like I was just part of the furniture. Useful, but not someone anyone noticed. I tried not to let it hurt too much. I focused on my clients, my designs, and my own little world. But it still stung when every family story seemed to be about Mariselle. When she got engaged to her boyfriend, Corvin, a finance guy with a perfect smile, it felt like the whole town was celebrating. One evening, at our parents' Christmas party, Mariselle proudly announced her engagement. She showed a slideshow of her ring sparkling like the Hope Diamond. My aunts cried, my dad hugged Corvin, and I sat there forcing a smile. I had spent all morning baking a pie for the party, but nobody even mentioned it. From then on, it seemed like everything was about Mariselle. My phone buzzed nonstop with group chat updates, dress fittings, catering menus, and photos of the vineyard they had picked for the wedding. My mom called every week, but it was always about Mariselle. I tried to talk about my design work, but she would quickly interrupt with more wedding talk. I texted Mariselle to congratulate her and tell her I was happy, and I truly meant it. But deep down, I felt a quiet ache, like I was fading away. When I saw her wedding party list, 10 bridesmaids, 10 groomsmen, including Corvin's little brother and our cousin Zephyr, who Mariselle barely knew, I realized she hadn't asked me to be part of it. It hurt, but I told myself, she's the bride. It's her choice. I didn't want to cause problems, so I swallowed my hurt and showed up at the rehearsal dinner with a gift and a smile, hoping maybe this time I'd feel like I belonged. The rehearsal dinner was the first sign that nothing had changed. The restaurant in Albany was fancy, with long tables draped in white cloths and candles glowing everywhere. I wore a nice blouse and skirt and carried a custom sketchbook I had made for Mariselle as a gift. Mariselle was at the head table, laughing with her bridesmaids. I walked over to say hi, and she gave me a quick, fake smile, like I was a delivery person dropping off flowers. "Oh, Selara, you're here," she said, then turned back to her friends, giggling about some bachelorette story. I stood there feeling silly before going back to my seat at the far end of the table. My parents barely noticed me. My dad gave a quick nod, and my mom was too busy fussing over Maricelle's seating chart to say hi. I left early, my chest tight, telling myself it was just one night. The wedding day came, and I drove to a stunning vineyard in the Hudson Valley. The hills rolled gently, and fairy lights twinkled in the oak trees. I wore my favorite navy dress and carried the espresso machine from Maricelle's registry. It had cost $400, which was a lot of money for me, but I wanted her gift to be special. I hoped the day would feel different. The ceremony was beautiful. Mariselle looked amazing in her lace gown, and Corvin smiled like he had won a prize. I clapped with everyone else, and even got a little misty watching my sister walk down the aisle. I wanted to feel happy for her. I really did. But when I reached the reception hall, my hope was broken. I looked for my name on the seating chart, expecting to sit with family, maybe near Zephyr or our aunts. Instead, my name was scribbled at the bottom of the chart in pen, not even printed like the others. Table 22. I asked an usher where it was, and she led me through a side door to a tiny corner by the kitchen. That was my seat, a single folding chair, right next to the chaos of servers running in and out. My face burned as I stared at that chair. It felt like a joke I wasn't in on. Isolde, one of Maricelle's friends, walked by and said, "Oh, Selara, you're fine here, right?" She had an awkward smile, like she felt bad but not enough to actually help. I looked at the main hall. Tables were decorated with gold. Cousins from Rochester were laughing with my parents. Mariselle was raising her glass and toasting with Corvin's family. Not one person looked my way. It was like I was 12 again, sent to my room while Mariselle played the perfect host downstairs. My hands shook as I set the espresso machine gift bag on the dessert table next to the cake. Then I walked outside. No yelling, no scene. Just me stepping into the night air, my heart racing with a mix of anger and freedom. Halfway across the gravel parking lot, Mariselle called my name. I turned and saw her standing there in her wedding dress, glowing under the lights, heels sinking into the dirt, bouquet dangling from her hand. "Selara, where are you going?" she asked. I didn't move. I just stared. "You can't just leave," she said, her voice breaking. "Can I?" I said, calm but icy. "You made it clear where I belong." Her face crumpled, but I didn't fall for the tears. "It's my wedding day," she said, like that erased everything. "Exactly." I snapped. "And I got a folding chair by the kitchen, Mariselle. Not even a proper seat. You had room for everyone, cousins we haven't seen since July, Corvin's old college friends, but not for me, your own sister." She fidgeted, avoiding my eyes. "It wasn't like that," she said. "We ran out of space." I laughed bitterly. 22 tables, Mariselle. I counted. You had room for 200 people, but not for me. She didn't answer. Her silence was louder than any excuse. That's when it hit me, not just the chair, but every Christmas when my gifts were ignored, every dinner where my stories were drowned out by her big news. "I've been invisible to you my whole life," I said, my voice steady but sharp. "You get the spotlight, and I always let you have it." I felt a strange mix of anger and relief. For the first time, I wasn't going to stay quiet. I wasn't going to let anyone treat me like I didn't matter. I took a deep breath and looked at Mariselle. "I'm tired of being the shadow. I'm tired of hiding. I deserve to be seen too." She opened her mouth, but I didn't wait for her answer. I turned and walked away, letting the cool night air wash over me. Each step made me feel stronger. For the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. I had finally stood up for myself. Walking to my car, I remembered all the times I had stayed quiet to avoid making waves. Every holiday when my gifts were ignored, every family dinner where my stories didn't matter, every birthday where my efforts were unnoticed. All of it. And now, I wasn't going to let it continue. I had my own life, my own dreams, and my own happiness. I realized that I didn't need anyone's approval to feel proud of who I was. That night, I felt free. Free from the invisible chains that had held me back my whole life. Free from being the quiet, unnoticed sister. I knew it would take time, but I also knew I had finally drawn the line. I would no longer shrink for anyone, even my own sister. I thought about my artwork, my designs, and the life I had built on my own. I thought about all the people who had believed in me when my family didn't. For the first time, I let myself feel proud, not of Mariselle, not of anyone else, but of me. I had always been invisible, but not anymore. I was here. I was strong. And I would never let anyone make me feel small again. I turned my key in the ignition and drove home, letting the lights of the vineyard fade behind me. My heart was still racing, but it was a good feeling. I had stood up for myself. I had told my sister how it felt to be invisible. And now, I was ready to live my life the way I wanted, without waiting for anyone to notice me. That night, I felt like a new person. I didn't know exactly what would happen next with my family, or if they would finally see me, but I didn't care. I had finally found my own voice. I had finally claimed my own space in the world. And for the first time, I felt truly free. I showed up and spent $400 on a gift for you. I had been thinking about this for weeks, making sure it was perfect. I wanted you to see me. I wanted you to know I cared. I waited there, hoping maybe this time you would notice me. But you didn't. You never do. Your eyes were shiny with tears, but I kept going. You didn't forget me, Mariselle. You chose to make me feel like I didn't matter at all. She stepped closer and whispered softly, "Please, Selara, don't do this now. Everyone's inside." I pointed at the bright vineyard behind her. "Go back. Dance. Cut the cake. Be the perfect bride. But don't expect me to sit in your shadow anymore." I had been trying for years, always trying to fit in, always trying to be the sister everyone liked. But this time I couldn't. She opened her mouth to say something, but I raised my hand. "I'm done. I can't be invisible anymore." As I turned to my car, my mom appeared. Her face was tight, showing her worry and frustration all at once. "Selara, what are you doing out here? Your sister's crying." I leaned on my car door, feeling the cold metal against my hand. "She did that to herself, Mom," I said quietly. She sighed like I was the one who caused all the problems. "You're making a scene. The seating was tight, that's all." I stared at her. She was the woman who had always told me to let things go whenever Mariselle got her way. She never saw my side. I said, "You let your daughter sit by the kitchen alone while strangers got family seats, and you think I'm the one making a scene?" She opened her mouth to say something, but I rolled up my window and started the engine. I looked in my rearview mirror. Mariselle was still standing there. Her dress shone in the light, and tears ran down her face. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. I didn't drive straight home. I took the long way, winding through the dark roads of the Hudson Valley, past orchards and quiet little towns. The sound of my car filled the night, pushing out all the noise and sadness in my head. My phone kept buzzing. Messages from my mom, Mariselle, even my dad, who only calls when something is broken. I didn't check them. I just drove, letting all the hurt from years sink in. Every time I was told to be understanding, every time Mariselle got the bigger bedroom, the newer phone, the louder cheers at school or family events, I always nodded and smiled. I took it. I didn't complain. But that chair by the kitchen was the last straw. It wasn't just a seat. It was proof that I was always the background in their story. Not the sister, not the daughter, just the extra. When I got home, my phone was full of missed calls. 30 missed calls. 15 from Mariselle, 10 from my mom, a few from my dad, and one from Zephyr, my cousin, who had always been a little like me, the one who didn't quite fit in. The group chat was chaotic. Maricelle's text said, "Selara, where are you?" My mom wrote, "You owe your sister an apology." My dad's message was short and blunt. "Call us." And Zephyr's text was the one that made me feel seen. "Saw your chair. That was wrong. Are you okay?" For the first time, someone in my family said my feelings mattered. And it hit me hard. I didn't reply. I just turned off my phone and went to bed, feeling lighter than I had in years. The next morning, I skipped the post-wedding brunch. I didn't want to sit around pretending everything was fine. I made coffee, pulled out my sketchbook, and drew some designs I had been thinking about for weeks. Then I took a long walk through Albie's art district. The sun was warm on my face. My inbox had an automated email from Maricelle's wedding site thanking me for attending, with a picture of her and Corvin under fairy lights. I corvined it as spam and didn't look at it again. That day, I did what made me happy. I grabbed a latte, walked around, sketched street murals, and just enjoyed being outside. No mean comments, no guilt, no pretending. But I knew my family wouldn't just let this go. That evening, Mariselle called. Her voice was soft, almost rehearsed. "Selara, we need to talk." I didn't hold back. "You had a year to plan, Mariselle. Don't say you were overwhelmed. You chose to put me in the kitchen." Silence. "Then you're still mad?" she asked. "No," I said firmly. "I'm done. That chair wasn't a mistake. It was you saying I'm not part of this family." She tried to argue, but I hung up the phone. A week later, I posted a blog. I included a picture of that folding chair with my name taped to it, next to a trash can with a half-eaten slice of cake. I wrote the truth. How I had always been pushed aside at family events. How Maricelle's wedding was the last straw. How I had spent $400 on her gift and was treated like a stranger. I didn't yell or rant. I just told the facts. My post spread. Friends from college, clients, even strangers wrote comments. "That's awful. You deserved better." Then Mariselle posted her own letter on Facebook, called "To My Sister." It was full of tricks. She said weddings are chaotic and claimed I abandoned her by leaving. But she messed up. She wrote, "I thought Selara would be stronger than to walk out." That made people ask questions. A college friend tagged me. "Wait, she put you in the kitchen?" Isolde wrote an article on her wedding blog, "How to Ruin Your Wedding with Bad Seating." It explained my chair, her ignoring me, everything without using names. It went viral. Reddit, forums, even a BuzzFeed listicle. Mariselle became a meme. Her head table photo was cropped to show a blurry guest sitting on a folding chair. The fallout wasn't just online. Mariselle deleted her Facebook. Zephyr texted me. Mariselle locked herself at home. Mom's losing it. I didn't reply. I was too busy living my life. I threw myself into my art and got a spot in an Albany gallery show. My pieces, bright and abstract, showed how it feels to be unseen. They sold faster than I expected. One painting called Empty Seat showed a folding chair against a shadowed vineyard. People didn't need an explanation. They understood the feeling. I was building a life not tied to my family's approval. Months later, Mariselle texted me. I didn't know you felt like this. I'm sorry. It was too late. We both knew it. I didn't respond. My mom called, furious about my blog. She said I embarrassed the family. I told her. Mariselle did that when she wrote her letter. I just told the truth. A week later, a package arrived at my door. No note. Just an espresso machine unopened. It wasn't an apology. It was a surrender. The real victory came as Isolde's article kept spreading. Maricelle's perfect image cracked. For the first time, people saw me, not just as a sensitive artist, but as someone who had been wronged and stood her ground. I skipped the next family barbecue. My parents kept calling and texting, wanting to fix the family, but I was done playing their game. I had spent years trying to fit into a family that didn't make room for me. Now I was creating my own space, my own life, my art, my friends, my peace. I wasn't angry anymore. I was free.